This pain you feel is the echo of what he is also living. You feel as if your soul is silently screaming, as if something inside you has been torn away. And no matter how much you try to move on, distract yourself, fill your time with anything, there's an emptiness that insists on remaining. You miss him as if he were a part of your own body. And perhaps you wonder, does he feel the same? Does he think of me too? Or am I the only one stuck in something that's already over? But what you may not yet know is that this pain you feel is the echo of what he is also experiencing. Even if he seems distant, cold, moving on with his life, there's something inside him that has also broken. Because when there is a soul connection, there is no real separation. There is distance, learning, silence, but no spiritual break. The pain that pulses in you also vibrates in his field. You feel it because the connection still exists, and he feels it, even if he can't express it. It's not a rational issue. It's not about messages exchanged or left unanswered. It's about energy, about what you accessed together, about the frequencies that awakened each other, about the memories that are imprinted not just in the mind, but in the soul. There's a part of him that knows, even if he denies it, that what you lived was real, deep, transformative, and no matter how much he tries to escape, he feels, he remembers, he dreams. Sometimes the pain you feel is not just yours. It's as if you are picking up on the absence, the longing, the confusion of the other. Like a sensitive antenna that receives signals even from afar, you may be living both sides of the grief, yours, and what he doesn't have the courage to face. That's why it feels so intense, so hard to explain, so invisible to the eyes of those who have never felt it. But here's a truth that sets you free. You are not alone in this pain, even without contact, even without a response, even if he is in silence. Your fields are still communicating. And what you feel now is not just longing. It is a deep call for healing, to look at what remains, to understand what this connection came to teach, because all pain has a spiritual origin. And if it is this strong, it is because it also carries an immense healing force. Maybe he doesn't have the courage to admit what he feels. Maybe he needs to go through this journey in silence, hidden from himself. But you can choose to move forward with awareness, with truth, with love for yourself. Because when one of you awakens, something inside the other also begins to move. You have tried to convince yourself that it's all okay, that it will pass, that what happened was necessary. And in part, you even believe that. But there are days when the absence screams louder than any positive thought. Days when you wake up with that strange feeling in your chest, as if you forgot something important, and then you remember. It's him. It's the lack of him. It's the silence that took the place where there used to be presence. Maybe you drifted apart due to words said at the wrong time. Or maybe you just gradually lost each other, like someone who distances themselves without realizing it. It doesn't matter how it was. The truth is that it hurts. It hurts not knowing if he thinks of you. It hurts to wonder if he is suffering too. It hurts to imagine that maybe he has already moved on while you are still struggling to stand. And it is at this point that the soul begins to enter conflict. Because on the outside, you try to keep your composure, stick to your routine, do what is right. But on the inside, there is an entire universe out of balance, an energy field that is still connected to him, a sacred place inside you that still feels him, even when the whole world tells you to forget him. And then you start to wonder, why does it still hurt so much if it's already over? Why do I feel as if he is still here, even though he is far away? Am I imagining all of this? Is it all in my head? Or is there something bigger happening that I still don't understand? These questions are legitimate. They are the pain trying to find meaning, the mind trying to organize what the heart is still processing. And it's important to say, you are not wrong for feeling. You are not wrong for remembering. You are not wrong for loving someone who is no longer by your side. We live in a world that pressures us all the time to forget quickly, to get over it, as if feelings were disposable. But the heart doesn't work that way. When the connection is of the soul, it doesn't fade with time. And it doesn't quiet with ready-made phrases. There is something deeper behind this bond, something that cannot be ignored, because it came to transform you. You miss him, but you also feel a call, an inner whisper saying, this is not just about him, it's about you, about what this experience is awakening in you, about the parts of your soul that are emerging from this pain, about everything that was dormant and is now being invited to awaken. Yes, he feels it too. Yes, there is a part of him that vibrates with your absence. But this path now is not about waiting. It's about understanding, feeling deeply, and allowing this pain to speak, not to destroy you, but to show you something you have yet to see. This is the beginning of a journey back to yourself, where pain ceases to be just suffering and transforms into revelation. There are pains that are not just emotional. They are pains of the soul. And you know this because no matter how much time passes, no matter how hard you try to distract yourself, something inside you keeps pulsating, as if a part of you is still connected to something the world insists on calling the past. But how can you say it's in the past if you feel it in the present? This pain that insists on surfacing in the most silent moments, on seemingly normal days, is not just nostalgia. It is a spiritual calling, because what you lived was not ordinary. It was not just a meeting between two bodies, two names, two paths that crossed by chance. It was a meeting between fields, between stories of other lives, between energies that recognize each other beyond logic and time. And that is why it hurts so much now. When a connection is deep, it exposes everything that was hidden. It reveals shadows, activates wounds, disarms defenses. True love is not comfortable. It is challenging, because it comes to heal, and healing often hurts. It's as if love lights a fire inside you, and suddenly, everything that was camouflaged starts to appear. The fear of abandonment, the need for control, the wound of rejection, pride, neediness. And then, when there is separation, all of this comes to the surface like a tsunami. You may have said, it's over. He may have said, I can't do this anymore. But the universe does not listen to words. It listens to vibration. And the vibration that remains between you is not one of an end, but of transition, a change of phase, a call to evolution. Because what started as a romantic love is now becoming something greater, a spiritual mirror. You wonder why it hurts so much. But perhaps the truest question is, what is this pain trying to show me? Because it is there for a reason. It is not punishment, it is revelation. Pain arises when the soul resists what needs to be seen, understood, released. And in this case, what is asking to be seen is not him, it is you. It is what this relationship activated in you, what it exposed, what it reflected, because it was, indeed, a mirror, a powerful mirror. And do you know what the mirror shows? It shows what is behind your neediness, your attachment, your idealization. It shows how much you have forgotten about yourself, how much you have disconnected from your truth to try to hold on to something that, deep down, was already asking for change. He is also going through this, perhaps in silence, perhaps running away, perhaps denying. But at some deep level, he is also being confronted with everything that this love came to reveal. Many call this a karmic relationship. Others call it twin flame. But more than names, what matters here is recognizing the process. You have been activated. Something inside you has been awakened. And now, what to do with it? Most try to escape, to run back to comfort, to distraction, to new loves that don't touch so deeply. But you, if you've come this far, it's because you no longer want to live halfway, because something inside you knows that this pain is not the end. It is the portal, the beginning of a new consciousness. Perhaps he still cannot cross this portal. Perhaps he needs more time, more experiences, more falls. But you are ready to look, to dive in, to understand that true love does not bind, does not control, does not demand. It reveals, it transforms, it awakens. And now, even without answers, even without a return, even without certainties. Something inside you has already begun to change. There comes a moment when you get tired of fighting against the pain, when the crying no longer comes with such force, but leaves silent marks on your body and soul. It's as if you finally accept that something is coming to an end, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. And this moment, although it seems the loneliest of all, is actually the beginning of healing. The soul only begins to reorganize when the mind stops resisting, when you stop chasing after answers, explanations, proofs that he still feels, and start to turn inward, because it is there, in the depths of your being, that true transformation happens. It is not about forgetting. It is about integrating. It is not about erasing. It is about understanding. It is in this time of retreat that you realize how much you had lost of yourself, how much you shaped your energy to fit into his world, how much you stopped listening to your intuition to follow the dynamics of a relationship that, although deep, also activated your oldest wounds. And now, in the silence of absence, you hear something you couldn't hear before. Your own voice. You begin to understand that true love does not require constant suffering. It requires presence, truth, wholeness. And sometimes to rediscover all of this, you must go through the desert, to be alone, to stop trying to understand the other, and start deciphering yourself. Because while you were busy trying to keep that love alive, perhaps you forgot to ask yourself, and me, where did I fit into all of this? The time of silence, no matter how painful it seems, is one of the most sacred, because it is in it that you heal. It is in it that you find yourself again. It is in it that the soul reorganizes, that the energetic threads begin to loosen, that attachment transforms into acceptance. Silence is not empty. It is fertile ground. It is a pause for rebirth. It is a nest for the soul that is about to expand. You gradually realize that you no longer need his presence to feel love. True love does not depend on the other being here. It lives in you. It shaped you. It left marks, yes, but it also left seeds. Seeds of strength, awareness, and growth. And now, it's up to you to choose what you will nurture, the longing or the wisdom. This doesn't mean you will stop feeling. It means you now feel with more maturity. You no longer drown in what you feel. You learn to breathe within it, to observe, embrace, and move on. Because pain only paralyzes when it is not understood. When you begin to understand it, it transforms into a bridge, a guide, an ally. And this is where the shift begins. You stop seeking a reunion with the other and start seeking a reunion with yourself. And curiously, it is at this moment that everything changes. Because when you return to your center, your energy changes, your vibration rises, your presence transforms, and the universe responds. It always responds. No, this is not magic. It is a spiritual law. When the soul returns to its axis, everything that is misaligned begins to reorganize, including the connections, including him. But now that doesn't matter as much as before, because you have discovered something more important, your own wholeness. Healing does not come with time. It comes with choice, with surrender, with the willingness to look within with courage. And you are doing that now. You are healing. You are freeing yourself. And you are, without realizing it, being reborn. There comes a moment when something changes inside you, not because the pain has passed, but because you have gone through it and returned different. It is not about forgetting what you lived, but about remembering who you are. And that is where the true miracle begins. When you stop expecting something outside of you to complete you and start inhabiting yourself fully. You no longer need to prove anything to anyone. You no longer want to beg for love, nor diminish yourself to be seen. Because now, something much deeper has awakened. The awareness that the love you so sought has always been within you. The higher self that was asleep begins to emerge, and with it come clarity, dignity, and magnetism. You realize that everything you lived was, in fact, a mirror, a sacred path to self-knowledge. You remember who you were before the pain, and even more, you realize that you are now much more than that old version, because the pain has refined you. It taught you to listen to yourself, to respect your limits, to say enough where you once remained silent, to choose yourself even when it meant letting someone go. And this is spiritual maturity. It is self-love that is not sold for crumbs. It is energetic dignity. It is the silent glow of someone who has returned home, the very soul. And when this reunion happens, everything changes, because now you no longer seek to fill voids. You radiate presence. You no longer try to convince anyone to stay. You become the kind of energy that attracts what is true. You no longer chase what hurts. You walk alongside what builds. You no longer depend on anyone's validation, because you have learned to validate yourself every day in the simplest details. This is true power, the ability to remain in yourself, even when the world around seems in ruins. The ability to move forward with a peaceful heart, even when there are still loose ends. The ability to trust that what is yours finds its way, without pressure, manipulation, or despair, because the soul that reconnects with its essence becomes magnetic, and not through effort, but through presence, through authenticity, through vibration. You begin to realize that love has not ended. It has simply changed form. It transcended attachment. It grew along with you. And maybe, one day, it will awaken too. Perhaps it will also recognize the preciousness of what it lived by your side. But now, that no longer binds you, because you no longer live in waiting. You live in movement, in expansion, in connection with what is real. You have gone through a process that many avoid their entire lives. They prefer to jump from one love to another, pretend it didn't hurt, cover holes with distractions. But you chose the more difficult and true path, to stay with yourself. And in doing so, you accessed a place that no one can take away from you, the inner temple where your strength, your light, your power reside. Now you know. You know what you deserve. You know what you no longer accept. You know what builds you up. You know what honors you. And above all, you know who you are. And this is what transforms everything. Because the world responds to your vibration. And when you align with what is, everything that wasn't dissolves. Now that you have come this far, take a deep breath and realize something has already changed within you. There may still be pain. There may still be questions. There may still be longing. But there is also awareness. There is light. There is space. And where there is space, there is possibility. You are no longer the same person who started listening to this content, because throughout this journey, you have been reminded of yourself. You have been called to feel, to reflect, to strip away the illusions and dress in truth. And this truth is not cruel. It is liberating, because it shows that love, no matter how painful, has never been a mistake. It was a path. It was a wake-up call. It was a starting point. It was an initiation into something much greater, the reunion with your soul. And maybe now you see more clearly. He is feeling it too, perhaps in a different way, perhaps still in denial. But when there is real connection, neither of you leaves the story whole. The pain you feel is the echo of what he is also experiencing. But the difference is that you chose to see. You chose to dive in. You chose to transform. And because of that, you are ahead, not out of competition, but out of awareness. What will happen from here on out? No one can predict. Maybe it will come back, maybe not. But now that no longer defines your life, because you stopped waiting and started living. And that changes everything. Love can indeed transform. It doesn't die. It changes form. And sometimes it comes back. Other times it dissolves. But what matters is what it left in you. Strength, presence, truth. You were called to cross this valley not to get lost, but to remember your power. And if this video, these words, this moment touched you in some way, if you felt that something resonated deeply in your heart, subscribe to the channel now. Here, you will continue to find words that heal, revelations that free, messages that illuminate. Leave your like, share this video with someone who also needs to hear this, and tell me in the comments, what has this pain taught you so far? What part of your soul have you rediscovered in the midst of this darkness? I will read you and feel you, because here, we don't meet by chance. Here, souls recognize each other. And I want to end by reminding you of one thing. You are much stronger than you think. And everything that has broken was so you would remember that nothing outside of you is more sacred than what resides within you. You have come home, and home has always been you.